Sphere put Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, and Samuel L. Jackson at the bottom of the ocean with a mysterious golden orb, and then quietly fell apart. But did you know the giant squid that terrorizes the crew was never actually built? Or that the film's ending was completely rewritten because test audiences hated the one they shot? 14 facts, starting with the sphere itself. 14. The golden sphere was supposed to be silver until it turned black on camera. Picture the sphere, that gleaming liquid champagne gold orb rippling with reflections as Harry stares into it. That color is an accident. In Crichton's novel, the sphere is explicitly described as a perfectly polished silver sphere with grooved convolutions, and the production built it exactly that way. Mirror silver, just like the book. Then they lit it. In the dim, shadowy habitat set, a perfectly reflective silver ball didn't gleam like chrome. It reflected the darkness around it and photographed as an almost solid black blob, utterly unimpressive, dead on screen. So the effects team and Levinson scrapped the silver and went with the warm champagne gold you see in the film, a color chosen purely because it was the only one that actually read as beautiful and otherworldly under the set's low light. The single most important object in the entire movie, the thing the whole film is named after, is the wrong color, because the right one looked like a hole. Watch it again. That golden glow only exists because silver failed the camera test. 13. The giant squid that attacks the habitat was never built. You're watching eggs late in the film. An enormous, unseen giant squid conjured from Harry's childhood terror of 20,000 leagues under the sea assaults the habitat, tearing it apart. Here's what you didn't know. There's no squid. The filmmakers couldn't build or afford a convincing giant squid, so it's almost never actually shown. Instead, watch the strange sequence where the crew wades through a massive, drifting torrent of translucent orbs. Those are supposed to be the squid's eggs. It's an entire scene invented to imply a monster the movie couldn't put on screen. The most dangerous creature in the film is one you never really see. You just see what it left behind. 12. Jerry is a spelling mistake, and the clue is hidden in the name. The whole crew spends the movie terrified of an alien intelligence in the computer that calls itself Jerry, chirping messages, manifesting monsters. But here's the reveal the film buries in plain sight. Jerry isn't an alien at all. The messages are being generated unconsciously by Harry, Samuel L. Jackson's character, while he sleeps after he went inside the sphere and gained the power to make his thoughts real. And the clue is right there in the name. Early on, the crew decodes the alien's messages using a cipher that converts numbers to letters. Run Harry through the same code and shift it, and you get Jerry. The monster's name is just Harry's name, garbled. The film hands you the killer's identity in the first act as a spelling error. 11. The book Harry's obsessed with goes blank at exactly page 87. When the crew realizes the squid comes from Harry's mind, they check the source of his fear. A copy of Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea he read as a boy. Look at the detail the film plants. Harry manifests copies of the book, and every copy is blank from page 87 onward. Why? Because as a child, that's exactly how far Harry got before he stopped reading. Page 86 is where the giant squid first attacks in Verne's novel. His terrified young self slammed the book shut right there and never finished it. So his subconscious can only recreate the book up to the page his fear stopped on, and can only manifest the one monster he read about. A blank page is the fingerprint of a scared kid hiding in a sci-fi thriller decades later. 10. Watch the jellyfish scene. Those aren't jellyfish, and the movie tells you, so Norman gets swarmed by a school of glowing jellyfish outside the habitat, stinging a crew member to death. But pay attention to Beth's line when she examines them afterward. These aren't jellyfish. Biologically, they're impossible. They have no reproductive organs, no digestive systems, nothing that could actually live. That's the tell. Every creature that attacks in this film is subtly, deliberately wrong. The shrimp Norman manifests have no digestive systems either, because none of them are real animals. They're manifestations, pulled whole from someone's imagination, and imagination doesn't bother inventing internal organs. The movie plants its entire solution in a throwaway biology observation most viewers slide right past. 9. The whole underwater world was shot completely dry, every shot of the crew drifting, floating, and struggling on the ocean floor. And the production barely touched water, rather than the brutal, expensive tank work that films like The Abyss endured. Much of Sphere's underwater illusion was created dry for wet. Actors on a dry soundstage, lit with rippling blue light, moving slowly with smoke and particles drifting through the air to fake suspended sediment. The claustrophobic deep-sea habitat that feels so wet and heavy and cold. Bone dry, on a stage in California. The ocean you're feeling is lighting, fog, and acting. 8. Samuel L. Jackson filmed this on weekdays and Jackie Brown on weekends. Here's a scheduling fact that recontextualizes Jackson's whole performance. While shooting Sphere during the week, playing the paranoid, unraveling mathematician Harry, Samuel L. Jackson was simultaneously shooting Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown on the weekends, playing the smooth, terrifying gunrunner Ordell Robbie. 2 completely opposite characters in 2 completely different films in the same 7-day week. So the exhausted, frayed edge Harry carries in the back half of Sphere isn't only acting. Jackson was genuinely running on empty, bouncing between an underwater breakdown and a Tarantino crime saga with no days off. 7. Half the movie's best dialogue was made up on the spot. Some of the film's sharpest, funniest exchanges, like Harry and Norman scheming about how to fake their official report and handle the insufferable Ted, weren't in the script. Levinson, who came from improv-heavy comedy, let Hoffman and Jackson simply riff, and several of their conversations were completely improvised on camera. It's why those scenes crackle while the plot-heavy ones creak. You're watching 2 of the best actors alive genuinely playing off each other, not reciting Crichton's famously over-explanatory dialogue. The life in Sphere lives in the parts nobody wrote down. Quick decompression stop. If this deep dive is earning it, hit like and subscribe, because we go inside a movie like this every week. Now, back to the habitat. Starting with the ending you didn't see. 6. The ending they threw away. Here's the big one. Sphere's release was a mess. It was yanked from its planned Christmas 1997 date and dumped into February 1998. And the reason was the ending. The film went through disastrous test screenings and reshoots because the original cut didn't work with audiences. What you eventually see is a strange, quiet, anticlimactic finale. The 3 survivors, having realized their own minds are the danger, use the Sphere's power to collectively will themselves to forget the entire experience, erasing their own memories so humanity won't misuse the Sphere. While the orb silently launches itself off the seafloor and back into space, to be discovered by the future crew that sent it. Roll credits. It's an ending audiences found baffling and unsatisfying, a movie that spends 2 hours building dread and then resolves it by having everyone agree to forget the plot. The reshoots and the delay from Christmas to the February dead zone are the fingerprints of a production scrambling to fix a finale that tested badly and never fully got fixed. You're watching the version they settled for, not the one they set out to make. 5. Barnes dies completely differently than in the book. Crushed by a door, watch Captain Barnes, Peter Coyote, die. Crushed by a closing bulkhead door as the habitat fails. Now here's the book version. In Crichton's novel, Barnes isn't crushed by any door. He's killed by the giant squid, torn apart in the water like several other characters. The film repeatedly swaps the novel's squid kills for cheaper door and explosion deaths. Ted, who dies by squid in the book, instead gets pinned by falling metal and burned alive in a gas explosion on a screen. Every time you see the squid should be doing the killing, the movie quietly hands the job to a malfunctioning habitat instead, because a collapsing set is a lot cheaper to film than a sea monster. 4. Sharon Stone's suicide scene was cut to save the character Watch Beth's arc, and something feels slightly incomplete. She swings from ally to paranoid threat and back. In the novel and earlier versions, Beth is far darker, deeply unstable, self-harming, at one point attempting suicide. The film pulled much of that back, softening and trimming her breakdown, reportedly to keep the character sympathetic and the star likable. It's why her turn toward menace, trying to kill Norman, can feel like it comes from nowhere. The connective tissue explaining how far gone she is was sanded down. You're seeing a psychological unraveling with several of its darkest steps quietly removed. 3. Hoffman publicly said the movie wasn't finished. And he was right. When you sense that Sphere feels rushed and unresolved, you're agreeing with its own leading man. Dustin Hoffman openly expressed disappointment with the film, saying flatly that it wasn't ready to be released when it was, that there were many more problems that needed to be solved, and the production simply ran out of time to address them. It's rare for a star to publicly admit their own big-budget movie shipped broken. But Hoffman's diagnosis matches everything else: the reshoots, the ending nobody liked, the Christmas to February exile. The movie you're watching is, by its own star's account, a rough draft that got released. 2. The impossible alien tech is just the crew's own ship. The film's central gut punch is hiding in plain sight from the first scene. The 300-year-old alien spacecraft on the ocean floor, encrusted in coral? It's human. It's an American ship from the future that traveled through a black hole and crashed backward in time. Which is why, when the crew explores it, they're unnerved to find English lettering, familiar controls, and manifests they can almost read. The first contact everyone's risking their lives for is a contact with ourselves. Watch the early exploration scenes again knowing this, and the crew's growing dread reads completely differently. They're not scared of aliens, they're realizing they're walking through their own descendants' tomb. 1. The whole film is a Rorschach test, and each monster names its victim step back, and Sphere's real design clicks into place. It's not a monster movie, it's a mirror. The Sphere grants whoever enters it the power to make their thoughts physically real. So every threat in the film is a self-portrait of the person who unleashed it. Harry, terrified since childhood of a giant squid, conjures a giant squid. Norman, stung by jellyfish as a boy, conjures killer jellyfish. The horror isn't the ocean or the alien, it's that these people are being murdered by their own subconscious fears, made flesh. The film's quiet, devastating thesis is that humanity isn't ready for a power like the Sphere, because the first thing we do with the ability to create anything is accidentally create the thing we're most afraid of. The monsters were us the entire time. Those were 14 facts most fans have never heard about Sphere. Which one got you? The ending they reshot, or the squid that was never built? Manifest your answer in the comments. If this earned it, hit like, subscribe, and send it to the friend who still says, "I saw you go inside the Sphere." Until next time, better forget you ever watched this.